offering our most reverential and humble salutations at the divine lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagavan, Sri Sathya Sai. This invocation that we began with is a poem that came forth from Bhagavan himself when the biographer of Swami, Sri Kasturi Ji, once when he was in an overwhelming situation, awestruck by Bhagavan's presence, he just said, "Swami, who really are you?" And Swami burst forth with this poem very spontaneously. And he said, "Sarva Rupa Dharam Shantam. I have assumed all the forms in the entire creation, and yet I am the unassuming substratum of this creation. Sarvanamadharam Shivam. Every form goes with a name. We call this a mic, it has a form. We call this a table, it has a form. Each one of us have a form and therefore a name as well. So Bhagavan said, Sarvanamadharam Shivam, which means since all the forms in the creation are mine, all the names are mine as well. And hence, every single name is pure auspiciousness. Then he clarified something. He said, Satchitanandam Advaitam. While I have become this infinitely many across the entire multiverses, the entirety of the creation, I am fundamentally only one, not many. And therefore he said, I am Advaitam, I am not two, I am just one. Because this one, that is that one that pervades the entirety of the creation, is imperceptible to our simple minds. Out of his immense compassion, he comes time and again. He comes as Rama, he comes as Krishna, he comes as Jesus. He came as Shirdi Sai, and then he adorned this most beautiful form of Sathya Sai as well. The same one. So he says, Satchitanandam Advaitam. But because this is imperceptible, he assumes a form that is so beautiful, so relatable, that when we see him, we have no other option but to fall in love with him. Do you agree? Okay. So, I'm sure all of you, or many of you here at least, are here because you can't help but love him. That's how he is. And that form of his, this beautiful form of Bhagavan, is really Satyam, which is truth itself embodied in this form, Shivam, pure auspiciousness. And therefore, even a single thought of Swami, when you're driving, you see a photograph of Swami on the lane, in a shop, or maybe on a car. This happens more often in India, or just a Om Sai Ram sticker somewhere. You see, the moment you see that, what happens to you? You feel so nice. You feel, Swami is here, right? That is because just a mention of his name or a visual of his form brings auspiciousness. He is Shivam, which means auspiciousness. And of course, he's Sundaram, he's beautiful, right? But Swami corrected that. Once when Swami was coming out for darshan, so this was a daily ritual for Swami in a sense. Whenever Swami came out for darshan, there is always a mirror kept there for Swami because he would adjust his hair. He has to look perfect when he comes out. So he would stand in front of the mirror, adjust his hair, and ensure everything is perfect. Check his robe, if the crease is perfect or not, right? It wasn't enough that he himself was so beautiful and everybody would be charmed by it, but he had to be like that, to set an example for us, to Make it more beautiful. So, on one such occasion, there was a mirror and Swami was standing in front of the mirror just before coming for darshan and adjusting his hair. And there was a student next to Swami, and Swami just turned to the student and said, "How do I look?" Nenu etla unnanra in Telugu, which means, "How do I look?" The student was so bowled over, he said, "Swami, you look beautiful." Swami said, "No, I don't look beautiful. I am beauty itself. I am that beauty that lends beauty to the entire creation. I am that Sundaram that lends beauty to the entire creation." When you see the smile of a child, when you see a beautiful blossom flower, when you see the beauty of nature all around us, it is beautiful because of Him. He is the underlying beauty that lends beauty to all of creation. So he said, "I am not beautiful. I am beauty itself." So that is Swami, right? So today's invocation was that poem in which Swami described himself. And through this description, one very important message that he has given each one of us is, He verily is present here in all this form. And therefore, I bow down humbly before Swami, present here as each one of you. When this journey is made with Sai, it makes a lot of difference. So what really is this journey with Sai? So if you look at it, Bhagwan describes this in this way. He says, Sai is basically Sa plus I. Have you heard of this before? Sai is basically Sa plus I. Sa, the syllable Sa in Sanskrit, basically represents divinity. Right? Sa means divinity. I, we all know is I. The little eyes that all of us are. Right? So what really is Sai then? Sai is basically the journey of this I to merge into Sa, which is divinity. It's as simple as that. You see? Our journey of life is basically the journey of this I to merge into divinity. Just that it's not like this, it's like this. It's within us. Right? So, let's see this journey of the I merging with divinity in the Indian culture is called Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam means there is a scripture called Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam typically describes the story, the love story between the devotee and God. And what is the object of this love between the devotee and God? Why does a devotee actually love God? The only object of the love of a devotee is to dissolve in the divinity. I repeat this. The object of the love of a devotee is to dissolve in divinity. There's a beautiful story that Swami used to narrate of Krishna and Arjuna. Are all of you familiar with Krishna and Arjuna, the two personalities? Yeah? Can I have a raise of hands, please? Okay, nice. I at least know everybody's awake for the talk. Okay. So, there was this discussion that happened between Krishna and Arjuna on the banks of the river Yamuna. So, Arjuna asked Krishna, what really is a devotee? Who is a devotee? Krishna said, can you get me a piece of rock that's inside the river? So, Arjuna very diligently went, picked up a piece of rock and came and gave it to Krishna. Krishna said, can you keep it outside for some time in the sun? And after a while, Krishna asked Arjuna to break that rock into pieces. And he did that because he's a strong person. He did it in a blow. And guess what? Krishna told him, carefully look at this rock. This rock has been in this river for thousands of years. Right? You know, when rivers flow, there are rocks in the river for thousands of years or hundreds of years, right? So this rock has been in the river for thousands of years. Yet, when the rock was removed out of the water and kept outside, it didn't take 10 minutes for the water that was there on the rock to evaporate. And even worse than that, when you actually break the rock and look inside, it's completely dry. So thousands of years of presence inside water made no difference to the rock. Krishna said, this is not a devotee. The next type of devotee. Krishna himself went, because they wear robes, those robes in the sense, they have these long shawls, if you may call them. They're called uttariyas. They are these long shawls which the kings used to wear. And Krishna had one. And he took his shawl, dipped into the waters of Yamuna, pulled it out and showed it to Arjuna. You see, Arjuna, this is made of cotton and therefore it absorbs water better than the rock. But guess what? He just squeezed the water out for some time and hung it around in the sun and the breeze. After a while, what happened? Even that became fully dry. Krishna said, even this is not a devotee. Which means just absorbing that water for some time, holding it, but with time it just goes away. That's not a devotee. Then Krishna asked Arjuna to get a handful of sugar candy. And when he got that sugar candy, Krishna took that sugar candy and he threw it into the river. Right? And he told Arjuna, now find the sugar candy. So Arjuna went into the river looking for the sugar candy, but only to find that it has dissolved completely into the water. That's when Krishna said, see, this is the nature of devotee. A devotee is so sweet by nature, but the goal of a devotee is to dissolve himself or herself in the divinity. That is the nature of a devotee. So Bhagavatam is basically the story, or rather divine directives through the lives of stories of devotees to understand how does a devotee dissolve in divinity. How does this little I become Sai? You see? It's as simple as that. That's the journey with Sai. Now we are going to not just talk about stories of devotees and the lessons that we are going to gain from that. This session is also going to help you take away lessons from Bhagavan for converting your daily life into sadhana, into spiritual practice. You don't have to do anything extra, that means. That's nice, right? Whatever you're doing, you can convert that into spiritual sadhana. Dr. Lata Shri Aunty already gave a quick brief of what all could be done, and we will look at elaborating some of them in practical ways. It also provides you with some elements of the 9-point code of conduct which Swami had given as part of the charter to the Sai organizations. That way, this should help us understand how we can practice better some of the elements of the 9-point code of conduct as well. One difference is, this session is not going to be a talk alone. This is actually a treasure hunt. Are you willing to play this treasure hunt with me? Yeah? So this session is a treasure hunt for all of us. And this treasure hunt comes with 4 major treasures. If you actually win all the 4 treasures, trust me, you have the keys to dissolve yourself in God. That is, the journey with Sai is complete. Right? So, the 4 treasures that we are looking at here, they come in 4 stages. And in each stage, there are 4 steps. See, there are a lot of 4, 4, 4 here. And what are those 4 steps here? So each of the treasure chests that you have to open in your mind space has got 4 keys. Unless you put all the 4 keys and open, it will not open. So you must be alert. Are you okay with that? You have to use all the 4 keys. What are the 4 keys? The first key in each of the treasure chests will come in the form of a puzzle. which you have to solve. The second one is a story which I will narrate, but you have to listen to carefully. And the third one is a set of insights that Swami himself has given regarding that story. And the fourth one is a practice that you must imbibe and inculcate in your life. When you do these four things, it will open that chest for you. And each of these treasure chests are a form of liberation in themselves. And therefore, they are a fulfillment in the journey with Sai. Right? So let's first enter this mansion of life where this treasure hunt is going to happen. This is a very interesting mansion. So this happened in the year 2006, I think. And Swami had selected some of us to accompany him for Atirudra Mahayajna, which was to happen in 2007, in January of 2007. So this is 2006, December, and Swami called all those who were selected by him to give a talk into the interview room. We were all seated around Swami, and there was a beautiful conversation happening. Suddenly, Swami said something which is the greatest thing for a devotee. Swami told us, "Tell me, what do you want?" Swami told each of us, we were 5 of us around Swami. Swami said, "Tell me, each one of you, tell me, what do you want?" So, each of us had asked for something. And there was one brother who said, "Swami, I want self-realization, Atma Sakshatkara, self-realization." So Swami very casually looked at him and said, "Oh, self-realization? That you will get it anyway." And this brother was shocked. He said, "Swami?" Swami said, "Yeah, self-realization, you will get it anyway." Then he was trying to protest to the simplicity with which Swami made this statement. And he said, "Swami, adikada Swami, naku bhayanga undi," he said in Telugu, which means, "Not that, Swami, I'm scared, mortally scared. I'm not sure if I'm eligible for self-realization. That's why I'm asking for it." Swami said, No. You don't worry about that. First thing that you need is self-confidence. This is what Swami said. What? First thing you need is self-confidence. Tell yourself, I will realize. You will definitely realize. Shall we all say this together? We're just going to tell this simple mantra which Swami gave. Okay? First step in this is self-confidence. We are going to say together what? I will realize. Exactly the way Swami uttered these words. Okay? Ready? Go with me. 3, 2, together. 1. I will realize. You see? This is the first step. Then Bhagwan gave the description of a beautiful mansion. He said, the foundation of the mansion of life is this self-confidence. The pillars are the self-satisfaction. The roof of this mansion of life is self-sacrifice. And he made a beautiful statement after that. If somebody builds such a beautiful mansion, will not somebody come and stay in this place? That life that spontaneously manifests in this beautiful mansion with self-confidence, self-satisfaction and self-sacrifice is self-realization, Swami said. You see? So this is the mansion in which we are going to enter that door and do this treasure hunt. All the treasures are inside that. Okay? So the first treasure box, treasure chest, all of you alert? Everybody, the hunt is starting. Self-confidence, the foundation, right? Here is your first key. Guess the devotee from the clue given in the image. Can you guess the devotee? SSC students must easily get this. Guess the devotee from the clue here. Yeah? Yes, I have a hand there. Yes? Give it a try. Who is saying that? I can't. Okay. Dhruva, yes. Dhruva. Very good, you got the key for everybody. Amazing. Okay, Dhruva. There's a beautiful story of Dhruva in Bhagavatam. This is one of Swami's favorite stories. We've basically compiled Swami's favorite stories here. And you know what happens is, Dhruva's father, Uttanapada, was a great king. He was an emperor in India. And he had two wives, Suruchi and Suniti. And each of them had children. Suruchi had a son. Suniti, the elder wife, also had a son. Suniti's son was Dhruva, and Suruchi had a son who always competed with him. You can imagine. So, one such occasion it so happened that the father, the emperor, was seated on the throne, and Dhruva, who is such a beautiful divine child, a sattvic, mild-mannered child, was sitting happily on the lap of his father. But the stepmother, that is Suruchi, did not like this scene. Why? Because she felt the sitting on the father's lap is symbolic of becoming the next king, the next emperor of the country. And therefore, she conspired. And she conspired and ensured that Dhruva went off the lap of the father and her own son was made to sit on the emperor's lap. Game of Thrones. Right? So, this is what happened. Now, this little boy Dhruva, who was so beautiful a child, he went to his mother because he did not feel bad because he was asked to get off the father's lap, but his mother was weeping. And therefore, he goes to his mother and asks his mother, "Mother, why are you weeping? What happened?" So the mother says, "See, my child, I feel always there is injustice happening to you. There's nothing wrong in what you are doing. You are not trying to usurp the throne. You're just sitting on your father's lap as a child. But I am not able to bear this." So the little boy, he was like 6 years old or something at that point, he asks his mother, "Mother, you tell me, what can I do to wipe the tears of your eyes?" He doesn't ask, "What can I do to go and sit on the throne?" He says, "What can I do to wipe the tears from your eyes?" So she says, "The only one who can save you is God himself. So go and seek his grace." This 6-year-old boy took it so seriously, he just walked off the kingdom deep into forest infested with ferocious animals. 6-year-old boy. And he just went there looking for his Lord Narayana, hoping he'll find him somewhere in the forest, because he has heard that the great rishis and the munis, the sages, were recluses, or they had hermitages in the forest, and apparently they had visions of God. So he thought he will find God there. So he went there in the thick forest looking for God. It is said in Bhagavatam that Lord Narayana saw this and he was moved by the simplicity and the sweetness of this child, the innocence of this child, and he sent his favorite person, Narada, to this child and told him, "Go and teach him how to earn the grace of God." So Narada goes to Dhruva and he meets this child and he says, "Child, what are you looking for?" He says, "I want to have the vision of God." So he says, "Okay, so what will you do if you have the vision of God?" "I have to take his blessings to go and sit on my father's lap, because that is what will wipe the tears of my mother's face." So Narada was so moved by this simplicity of this child, the innocence of this child. He said, "My dear, I have come here. In fact, he has sent me here to tell you how to win his grace. So I will teach you a mantra. You keep chanting this mantra with the purest recesses of your heart, and he will definitely come and give you darshan. He will give you the blessings you seek." So Dhruva went about with this prayer. And what was that prayer? The chant that he was given, we all are going to chant it now, because that is the second key. Right? The chant that was given to him was, anybody knows? Yes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So if you feel like, you can chant along with me. Right? Otherwise just listen to it. That's fine. But I will chant you please follow after me. Is that okay? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. As this little child was chanting the name of God in this way, Narayana couldn't help but appear in his presence. God appeared before him and said, "My dear child, I am touched by your love. Please tell me what I can do for you." And by that time, surely by this chant, that little boy was so purified within himself that he forgot the reason for which he came. He said, "Lord, I don't want anything, I want you." That's all he said. "Swami, I want you, I don't want anything else." Then Lord Narayana looked at him and said, "Hey, that's not what you came for." This is the insight which Swami gives. We go to the third key from here. First is the self-confidence. I'm sure you got that from that little child. This is the point that Swami makes from the story of Dhruva, which every devotee must cultivate. Swami said, Swami himself as Narayana, to Dhruva, he said, "See, my dear, you are going to shine as an exalted devotee for eons to come, from thousands of years to come. And therefore you must set the right example. You came here seeking to sit on the lap of your father. And therefore, now if you change what you were asking for, though it is for me myself, it isn't unity of thought, word and deed. So first I will grant you what you came here for, because that is also tied up with the destiny of this great nation of Bharat itself, of India itself. And therefore he told him, I bless you that you will go back, finish your studies, become the emperor of India, and bring great joy by serving the subjects of your kingdom. Give them happiness and joy. Solve their problems. Show them the pathway to God. And that way, you will not just redeem your life, but you will redeem the lives of all the subjects in your kingdom. With that blessing, Lord Narayana sent Dhruva back to the kingdom. So Bhagavan says here that a devotee must have a unity of thought, word and deed. It's very important. The beauty of the story is, 6-year-old boy decides to walk into a jungle to find God. Imagine that self-confidence, right? He had confidence in himself to do that. But then, when he met Lord Narayana, he walked back with confidence in the self. And here the self means not the limit, the small I, but the supreme I, which is Bhagavan himself. He had great faith in God himself, and he walked off with that faith that God's blessings, God's love is with me. And Dhruva carried that love of God, eventually became the emperor, and he ruled the kingdom with great love and compassion towards his subjects. You see? So, our life should start with self-confidence. We must practice as devotees unity of thought, word and deed. And more importantly, when we do this, we will walk away with confidence in Swami, that Swami is with us. Why? Because when we follow Swami's teachings, Swami is all the time with us. Well, anyway, he's all the time with us. But then, when we follow Swami's teachings, we know or we experience that he is all the time with us. You see? So what is the greatest gift that Swami has ever given? So this happened to a student who went for a job interview, And this was for a multinational company and an international company. So he sat in front of a panel of CEOs, the biggest authorities in that company. And one of them, while interviewing this student of Swami, happened to see his resume, which said, student of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Prasanthi Nilayam. He knew something about Swami, that CEO, so he said, oh, you're from Sathya Sai Baba's place? He said, yes, sir. So I have heard that he gives, lots of gifts like rings and chains and bracelets and watches and all. So what gift has he given you? So this student smiled at him and said, sir, may I take your permission to elaborate this a little bit? And he said, I come from a background, from a remote rural setting in India, where both my parents have to work, one in the field, other at other people's homes, in order to make two ends meet. Means we can't have a square meal if both my parents don't work. There is no school in our village. If I have to go to school, I had to walk at least 15 kilometers, and there is no transportation. Drinking water is something that is strange to us. We drink whatever we get. And then electricity is something I never knew what it means. Right? This was the situation in my village. From here, my parents struggled and got me educated in school, but Swami took me into his college and he gave me completely free education. And what education? State-of-the-art education. And I did not know how to speak English, and today I sit here in front of a panel of elite members of a multinational, the CEOs of a multinational, and confidently I'm speaking to each one of you, and I'm sure I'm answering your questions to the best of your satisfaction. This self-confidence that a rural kid with no facilities had, this self-confidence is the greatest gift that Swami has given me, he said. You see? So the greatest gift that we can receive from Swami as his students, as his children, as his devotees is self-confidence. So where does self-confidence itself derive its vitamins from? Our body needs vitamins to function well. But how does self-confidence derive its vitamins from? So because self-confidence is the foundation, we are obviously taking a little more time with self-confidence. Because without a proper foundation, you can't build a good house, right? So, let's do an exercise. Are we ready to do an exercise? Okay. So, a simple experiment for which first you will need to sit straight. Thank you. Yeah, you can relax your back, but just keep it straight. Wonderful. Okay? All of you lift your right hand and place it on your thigh. If you are a lefty, a southpaw, you can lift your left hand. That's okay. Whatever is your major hand, right? Keep it on your thigh. Okay? Now, I ask you, experiment number 1, I ask you to just think, lift my hand. It could be right or left, right? Just think, lift my hand. Please think. Observe your hand. Just the sensation. You don't have to even see it. You know whether it's moving or not, right? Observe your hand. Is it moving? No? Please speak up. No. Yes. Let's think more intensely. Think intensely. Lift my hand. But only think. And observe your hand. Is it moving? Are you sure? Okay. It's not moving. Fine. This was experiment 1. Please note your observations. This is a key to the treasure, so please remember this. The second experiment, when I say 3, 2, 1, as soon as you hear 1, simply lift your hand. Is that okay? Did you get it? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Wow. Amazing. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now we move to experiment 3. When I say 3, 2, 1, you choose whether you want to lift your hand or not. Is that fair? Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay. Those who have lifted, keep it like that. No. Those who have lifted your hand, keep it like that. I want you to look around and see. Please look around. Please look around. Turn. Yeah? Are you seeing? Has everybody lifted their hand? Have some people lifted their hand? Yes. Wonderful. So you tell me, please, your hands down. Thank you for your participation. Please tell me now, what did you learn from experiment 1, 2 and 3? What is your observation? Anybody? Yeah? No, what can you decode this step by step? Experiment 1. What did you observe? In the first experiment, what did you do? Just think. Did your hand move? No. In the second experiment, you complied with me out of compassion. Oh, this guy has come all the way from Puttaparthi and he's telling, okay, 3, 2, 1, whatever this may be, let me just lift. Right? You have been compassionate. I am grateful to you for that. Right? And what happened though when you heard 1? You lifted your hand. Then in the third experiment, when there was a choice given to you, whether you want to lift or not, again the same count, 3, 2, 1. Some of you lifted the hand and some of you did not. What do you infer from this? Beautiful. Thank you, Uncle, for that. Uncle says thought and word are just temporary. You see? In the sense, I'm just extending the thought, that by themselves, they don't remain to do anything. They come and go. You see? You had a thought, lift my hand. Did the hand move? No. So just by having thoughts in your head, why I'm pointing this out is, most of us complain and say, oh, my mind is like that. My mind is like this only. It can never change. It's very difficult to give up this habit. Why? Because my mind is like that. What is mind? Mind is basically thoughts. What Bhagavan says is mind? Mind is a bundle of... Hey, you all had snacks and tea. Mind is a bundle of thoughts. Wonderful. You see, the same mind we are talking about, a mere thought in your experience now cannot translate into action. Did you see that? Did you notice it? Great. Now the second experiment, when we said 3, 2, 1, what did you do? Why did your hand lift? There was another thought there. But the thought was what? Of a... Sorry? To follow the instruction. Beautiful. That is, you had taken a decision. A thought in the form of a decision was there, which is your intellect, to follow the instruction. Moment you decided that, okay, poor thing, let me just lift the hand. When you heard 1, automatically your hand went up. Was there any thought when you actually lifted the hand? If you had observed carefully, no thought there. So when there was a thought, there was no action. When there was actually action, there was no thought. This is actually how life works. Please understand this. Okay? So in the third instance, there was a choice. Then what you did? You exercised your choice. Like sister said, willingness. That is the most important thing. For self-confidence, this will in the willingness is the most important thing. It is your will that decides if a particular thought is to be translated into an action or not. If there is just a thought in your mind, it can't do anything to you. You may ask me though, but there are some habits, I don't even have time to, find out whether there's a thought or not. It just happens. You know why it happens? None of your habits are from the time you were born. Do you agree? From the time you were such a small, cute little baby, you don't have any habits from then, do you? Yeah? No. So, habits were picked up on the way. So, how did you pick up the habit? Many of you are in the banking industry here. Many of us, all of us mostly use banks. So we are familiar with standing instructions, right? So what is the standing instruction? Do you have it in Australia as well? Is it called standing instruction? Okay. What is the standing instruction? If you don't participate more actively, you're delaying my session, you have to sit longer. Yeah? Pay the bills automatically. Like month to month, whatever bill is generated, you have, and who has authorized the bank to pay the bill? Bank by itself? No. Who has authorized? We have authorized, right? Unless we give our authorization, the bank cannot generate a standing instruction. In the same way, you see, the thought by itself cannot translate into action. And if there's no action, there's no habit. What we call as habits are basically some tendencies that knowingly or unknowingly, we have given a standing instruction to our mind, saying, whenever this happens, just do it. So what do we do? If you want to stop a standing instruction in the bank, what do? Who authorizes again? We only have to authorize. So therefore, it is the power to change a habit. The self-confidence derives its vitamins from us. Us meaning our willpower. We are the ones who gave a standing instruction for a habit. We are the ones who can repeal it back as well. And Swami would give the analogy of the calendar very often. So you have an habit, so you have rolled the calendar one way. Now it's stuck in that direction. You don't want it in that way. You want it stretched out. So what do? Swami says, just take and reverse roll the calendar. So when you reverse roll the calendar and stretch it out, it's become straight. You see? But you have to do it. It is not going to magically happen. Right? So that is where your self-confidence. This will, which you have to decide, that will that you have, please pay careful attention to this. Your will and Swami's will is one and the same. Your will and Swami's will is exactly the same. There are no two wills actually. There is only one will. Why? Because this willpower that has the ability to convert a thought into action is like electricity. Electricity is powering the heater, it is powering the lights, it's powering the fans, it's powering the projector. You see? Electricity does not discriminate, but it has the power to power other appliances. It is the same. In the same way, the will that you have is the same as God's will, and therefore it is so powerful. Therefore it is so powerful, and therefore you are the maker of your own destiny. That is, whatever you think, do and say comes back to you very strongly. Why? Not because of some unknown law in the nature, because you are that powerful. It is your will that is driving this life. You see? So therefore, I want you to experience this will once more. So let's go back to that point in experiment 3 where I say 3, 2, 1. You choose to lift your hand. But when you do that, I want you to observe your ability to choose. Can you do that? Yeah? Ready? 3, 2, 1. Did you pay attention to your ability to choose? Again, look around. Not everybody has raised. Some have raised, some haven't. Which means you're exercising your choice willingly. Thank you for your hands. Thank you. Right? So, is this clear? So, this is where self-confidence comes from. And guess what? When you know that the power for transformation is actually within you, and you're using it every day, but for trivial things, right? When you know this power is in you, you can do anything. And Swami says, there is nothing which is impossible. It is only I am possible. Right? So, this is a simple practice. When you develop your willpower this way to transform your life in the way that Swami encourages us to do, you know what happens? From self-confidence to confidence in the self, which is God, you will move to confidence of the self in you. That is, Swami will have confidence in you. That, yeah, this devotee can do good work in the world. This devotee will be a beacon of light for everybody else in the world. That confidence Swami will have in you. In fact, this is an episode from 2009, and this is Ratan Tata, the great leader of Indian industries, the Tata Industries. And he had visited Swami, and in this session, Swami told something to Ratan Tata ji. I shared it with the youth, but I'm going to repeat it again here. Swami said, in this world today, there is a lot of pollution. There is pollution inside human beings, which is reflected outside in the nature and the world. We all were witness to it. When Corona happened, everybody went indoors. What happened to the nature? Started flourishing. We had been to Healesville Sanctuary, and they were telling us that beautiful birds just came in back to the nature once everybody shut down their activity, human activity, right? Which means what? When there is pollution within a human being, it is reflected in the creation. So Swami was telling this to Ratan Tata ji. He said, today there is a lot of pollution inside human beings, which is reflected outside in the nature and the world. My children, my boys, he said boys because the context were only boys there, but it means his students. And again, students are not university students. Swami students means anyone who follows Swami's teachings, right? So Swami said, Hamara boys, which is my students, will go out there and clean up this pollution. They cleaning up this pollution is the service they will do unto me. This is what Bhagavan said. So that is a confidence that Swami has in each one of us here. Because he says, he has confidence. He's not making a guesswork here. He's not making a prediction here. He is utterly sure that his students, that is those who are following his teachings, will go out there and clean up the pollution in the world. And that is their service to him. And for that, obviously, we need to clean up within ourselves. Because the outer pollution is a reflection of the inner pollution, right? So, all of you, through these 4 keys, have unlocked the treasure of the first type of liberation, which is called Salokya Mukti, that is to live in the kingdom of God. So, through this process of developing self-confidence and having confidence in Swami that he is working through us, this attitude is enough for us to realize that we are living in the kingdom of God. Then everything that you do is actually happening in the kingdom of God. And that living in kingdom of God is a type of liberation called Salokya Mukti as described in Bhagavatam. Now we go to the second. From here on, we will shift gear. First one was foundation, so careful and slow. After this, we need to move fast. Are you willing? Yes. You need to be more energetic to move fast. Okay, self-satisfaction, the pillar. Now, quickly guess the devotee. It's in the form of a poem, a riddle. He was taller than the mountains, deeper than the seas, too hot for fire, even elephants had to admire. Snakes could at best hiss. To take the name of the Lord, he would never miss. Who is this? Yeah? Prahalada, very good. So all of you have got and distributed the first key for this treasure to everyone. Wonderful. I'm not going to go into details of this. I'm sure you've heard of Prahalada, right? Just to give a quick scan of the story, Prahalada was born to a demon king called Hiranyakashipu. Swami said that he was the greatest scientist ever born till date, right? So he had technology that could reach sun. We are still, grappling with moon and Mars. Still. So that's what Swami said about him, that Hiranyakashipu, his father. But then he was so egoistic about his prowess and achievements that he wanted everybody to worship him as God. Imagine 100, 200 years back, if you would show electricity, light, projection system to somebody, they would think you're God. Right? So this Hiranyakashipu was a great scientist, and therefore most people thought he had some extraordinary powers. Right? So he's asked everybody to worship him. Everybody did that out of fear of him, except one, his own son. And that was Prahalada. And Prahalada was, you can say, baptized in a sense with the name of God, even when he was in the womb of his mother. Right? The same person who did that for Dhruva did here for Prahalada. Who is that? Narada, of course. Right? So Narada went and he gave a mantra to Prahalada. That is the second key for this section for us. Okay? And we will do the same thing. We will chant the mantra that Prahalada chanted day in and day out, so much so that his body itself became a temple of God. It became such a temple of God that he was thrown into fire. And that's why the riddle says he was too hot for fire. Which means he was thrown into fire. Fire burned, but it didn't burn his body. He was thrown into the ocean couldn't drown him. He was thrown from the top of a cliff, yet he survived. So what is this kind of a body? His body was a temple of God, a living temple of God, and that resonated with the name Om Namo Narayanaya. So we will chant this all together. Is that okay? Are you bored? Yes? Okay. So please chant this after me, and let's invoke the blessings of this great devotee on all of us. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. With this constant namasmarana of the divinity, this beautiful devotee of God became a moving, living temple of God himself. And that is the insight that Swami gives, that our bodies too are temples of God. And the inner resident of our heart is Swami himself. Every temple has a sanctum and there's a deity in the sanctum, right? Whatever may be your object of worship across religions. But that auspicious presence or a deity or a divine form that is there to be worshipped in the sanctum is actually in the sanctum of our own body, right? This body is so Swami would say, Deho Devalayo Prokto, Jivo Devas Sanatanaha, which means the body is a temple of God, and what you think to be as an individual soul, you actually are the spark of divinity yourself, right? So that is what Prahalada was. And what happens in a temple? Anybody, what happens in a temple? Can you just tell? Prayers, rituals, offerings, and all of these things, whether it is prayers, rituals, offerings, chants, programs like music and dance programs also happen in Indian temples at least, right? What are they all for? For whom are they doing all of this? For the Lord who is in the sanctum, right? So the Abhishekam or the prayers, the rituals, the Vedic chants, or the service that happens in a church, everything is offered to the Lord. In the same way, when the body is the temple of God, when you come to this awareness that your body is a temple of God, then what happens? Everything that you do in your day-to-day life, what should it become? It should become an offering to the divinity present in your inner sanctum. That is Bhagavan himself. So Swami says, I am the indweller of your heart, and your body is my temple. And therefore, whatever activities you do through this body, we must ensure that it is done to his pleasure. It is done to make him happy, to please him. And that is the only way in which one can become like Prahalada. So work for the satisfaction of the self or God, right? So here is a simple example of how you could convert your daily activity into a worship of the Lord who is your inner resident, right? Auntie had mentioned briefly about this. We will do it practically. This is the fourth key in the second treasure box, just in case you forgot, right? So, do you see this? What do you see here? Yeah, is that one river or two rivers? Two rivers, right? So one slightly brown in color, the other one greenish blue, right? You know what? This river here, greenish blue, is the Ganga that comes from Gangotri, the source of Ganga, right? Gomukh is the source, it flows down and comes this way. The other side, you have a sacred shrine in India which Swami himself had gone in the early 1960s called Badrinath. So there's a river called Alaknanda that flows. So Alaknanda flows all the way till this point. Bhagirathi is the name of the river that's the greenish blue in color. At this point, which is called the Deva Prayag in Sanskrit, Dev means God, Prayag means confluence of rivers. In India, we worship confluences of rivers for a very beautiful reason. You know, you ask Indians, they will always go and take dip in confluence of rivers. Why is that? Besides the fact that there are many natural herbs and other things that come along with the river, there is a spiritual reason. The spiritual reason is, there is a legendary story behind the river in blue or green. There is a legendary story behind the river that is brown in color on the other side. They have their own histories, they have their stories, they have their glories. They have, possibly an entire scripture dedicated to each one of them. And you know what? When they come to the point of confluence, they are willing to give up their individual identities to serve humanity going further. And therefore, from this point onwards in this picture, there is no more Bhagirathi, there is no more Alaknanda, who have beautiful individual identities. But they merge to become one river, and from there it is called Ganga. The river Ganges gets its sacredness because of the sacrifice of these identities. So that is why Indians often have dips in the confluences or Sangamam or Prayag as it is called. The reason being, symbolically, it dissolves the devotee in the divine for the service of humanity. You see? So because of that sacredness, river Ganga is considered sacred as well. So, it so happened that we were retracing Swami's footprints to Badrinath, and we all traveled to this place, and we were also having a dip here because Swami in his 1960 tour to Badrinath had asked all the devotees to go and take a dip here. So we also did that. So when we were doing that, one elderly devotee of Swami who was with us, we were chanting the Vedas as we were seated there, and with our eyes closed. And you know what he did? He took buckets of water from this confluence, and as we were chanting Vedas, he poured it on our head, and I was the first one to receive the shower. So I was startled for a moment, but then I received 2 more buckets, by which time I settled down. Okay. So I was wondering, what is this happening? Then it struck me from within that, wow, this is the message of Swami. This body is a temple of God. And what is happening is the Abhishekam. Like, you have the Shivalinga, and they do Abhishekam of the Shivalinga. You pour sacred water on top. So this body, Linga, basically means a symbol, right? So Linga is a symbol of God. Body is also a Linga, which means body is a symbol of God. And therefore, that elderly devotee who was such an elevated being, he was pouring water on our head, symbolizing that we are also symbols of, that is, our bodies are temples of God or symbols of God. And this happened to Swami himself. So when Swami would take shower in Prasanthi Nilayam, and even in a place called Venkatagiri, there was a great king who was a devotee of Swami. Swami would go there, and when Swami would shower, this king of Venkatagiri, which is a kingdom near the place called Tirupati in India. You might have heard of the place. He would arrange 11 priests who are the best in southern India to stand outside Swami's room and chant Sri Rudram. So as Swami is Showering himself, outside there would be chant of Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraja, and it would go on. Why? Because here Rudrabhishekam is happening. That is, Lord Shiva is doing a self-abhishekam in this. See, this is body being that. Swami said he says his life is a message. Is his message. He's setting an example for each one of us to show how we can do. So if all of us do this, that is when we take a shower every day, hopefully, right? Winter is gone. So for the sake of others, when we take shower every day, we must remind ourselves that this is what is this? Please. Temple of God, right? How do we do it? We'll do it right now. Not with water, but just imagination. So I request you to please sit straight. Close your eyes. And visualize that you're showering like any other day. Pouring water over your head. Right? As you do the shower, we will chant the Gayatri mantra as Swami has advised. Right? Just 3 times. You can chant along with me, not after me, along with me as you do this. Just visualize taking shower mentally. Please keep your eyes closed and start. First shower. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. That's it. Beautiful. In this way, every day when you shower, if you just remind yourself, even if you're not chanting the Gayatri, those of you who are not interested to chant, also it's fine, it doesn't matter. What you need to do is just have the attitude that this body is a temple of my Swami. He is my inner resident. And therefore, this shower is actually a ritual of cleansing this temple of God. If you just do that every single day, don't worry what's happening, what's not happening. Just do it every day. Can you do that? Yeah, wonderful. If you achieve this, that is, through your daily activity, you perform everything you do as a worship unto Swami, who is the inner resident of your heart, with your body as a temple of Swami, then you attain what is called as Samipya Mukti, that is, the liberation that is close proximity to divinity. Not just are you living in the kingdom of God now, but you also live in close proximity. The kingdom could be large, right? So the king could be in one palace and the kingdom could be still large. So first is like that. The second one is you are not somewhere in the kingdom, you are with the king in the kingdom. Okay. So in the close proximity, like Hanuman, serving the Lord in your day-to-day activities. Everything that you do, your very breathing becomes a service to God. Right? Now we move to the third treasure chest, which is self-sacrifice. First key, of course, is a riddle. He was proud of his might, had his kith and kin always in his sight. He was proud of his glory, his worship, his story. When the testing times arrived, he was of help completely deprived. Who is this? Can you make a guess? Well, the hint is right on top. He was proud of his might. Huh? Sorry? No. No. He had his kith and kin always in his sight. When testing times arrived, what happened? He was of help completely deprived. Yeah? No. Okay, but I'll give it to you. You have won 2 keys, you can take this. Free. So, this is Gajendra. The elephant, like Sai Gita, the elephant devotee of Swami, the scriptures talk about Gajendra, the great devotee of Lord Vishnu. And you know what? He was so powerful. He was the king of the jungle. Though we say lion is the king of the jungle, Gajendra was said to be so powerful. He was the king of the jungle. There were herds of elephants behind him that would just follow his instructions. Right? One day he goes into a river and there's a crocodile, Steve Irwin's friend, that catches hold of his feet and doesn't leave him. And he thought, oh, I am an elephant of great might. I will just relieve myself with my strength and power. So with all his prowess he tried, but he couldn't relieve himself of the grip of the crocodile. So what happened? The crocodile actually pulled him deeper and deeper into the river. And that's when he realized that his strength is not enough. He thought he's very powerful. He thought he had everything. And his strength is not enough. Then he had to let go of the ego of his strength, the pride of his strength, and call out to his friends and family. So he thought his next strength, if not his physical strength, is his family and friends. So Gajendra calls out to his family and friends and says, please come and help me. And they see that this crocodile is so huge and it is capable of pulling down the strongest among them. They were worried. So they said, we are not getting into this. So they took a step back. All the other elephants in the herd, they took a step back. So that's when he realized, what I thought was my prime strength, which is my physical strength and my prowess, my capabilities, didn't help me. What I thought was my next level of strength, that is my family and friends, in dire circumstances, which means at the time of us leaving this abode, nobody can help us. Nobody can accompany us. Will anybody accompany us? No. We come alone, we go back alone. He realized that at that point. And then he realized there is only one person who is always there with him, who is willing to protect him, and somehow he forgot. And who was that? Swami. Right? So after trying out all that he thought was his strength, he gave up on everything and he cried out to the Lord, it is said. And when he cried out with all his heart, it is said that Lord Vishnu, who was playing, and it's a beautiful depiction, I'm just telling you the story part. The Lord Vishnu, who was playing a game of chess with his wife Lakshmi, he wasn't even fully dressed, that is, he was just having one piece of shawl on his upper body. He heard the cry of the devotee so intense, he just dropped everything. In fact, he was holding a rook in the game of chess, which is an elephant, right? He dropped that right there and he ran to save this real elephant, it is said. So that's what this depiction is all about, right? This is a very important story for every devotee. A devotee can have self-confidence and achieve great things. A devotee can convert their body into a temple of God and offer all their activities to God. But yet, Swami says, we must be, as devotees, always conscious of who actually is working through us. Where is this self-confidence coming from? Who is functioning through us? Please think of this. The sun shines. Because the sun shines, you have vegetation on earth. Yes? Do you agree? And how does the vegetation capture the sun's energy? Through photosynthesis. Yes, kids? Photosynthesis? Yeah. So, through photosynthesis, sun's energy is captured. Now, the energy that is captured into the plants are now in the form of grains and fruits and vegetables and whatnot. We consume that and gain energy. Now, imagine if you do not eat for 3 weeks at a stretch at all. You don't take any food at all. Can you do any activity? Can you? Are you sure? Which means what? It is only because you're having food that your body has energy to do activity. Now, where does this energy come from? It's come from the fruits and vegetables and grains. That's come from the plants. The plant has got its energy from the sun. Now tell me, are you running the sun? Do you have a contract? Annual maintenance? Are you in charge of running the sun? Are you running the plants and the vegetation? Oh, great. After it comes to your plate and you eat, are you digesting your food? Do you know how to digest your food? Do you know how you may study biology where they talk to you about how the food digests, but are you digesting the food? Do you know how much to secrete, of what to secrete, what enzymes, what acids? Do you know? How is all of this happening? There is a cosmic intelligence, isn't it? Cosmic because it's spread all over the cosmos. All the planetary systems are working like that. Obviously, it is intelligence because it's working fantastically well. Yes? That cosmic intelligence is referred to as God. That cosmic intelligence is referred to as God sometimes, right? For some people. That cosmic intelligence is what is functioning through the sun, through the flora and fauna, and through our body day in and day out. If that cosmic intelligence drops off its work, can you do any activity? No. So in real essence, who is the doer? Who is the doer? Swami is the doer. That cosmic intelligence whom we call as Swami. So Swami is the doer, right? Electricity is running all these equipments. If suppose there is no power, there is no electricity. I don't know if it happens in Australia, but please come to India. Right? So when there is no power, can you run the lights? So all these fantastic instruments you may create, but without electricity, can anything run? Right? So the real force behind everything that functions is the electricity. In the same way, the real force behind all our functionings is actually God. We may think we are doing all activities for God, but the reality is God is doing that activity through us. Right? So when we graduate to this level of understanding, we learn to give up the sense of doership. We become more humble to understand that this is just a speck in the creation, and what is creation? What is the cosmic intelligence is much, much grander than this, right? So then we progress from being a worshipper. When you say body is a temple of God, sometimes you may get an idea of rituals and worship, right? So from being a worshipper, you become a devotee. Because a devotee is one who dissolves in divinity, right? This is my favorite quote from the Bible, which summarizes this, what we just discussed. Jesus says to Peter, even as he is carrying the cross, he says, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. You see, what a potent and beautiful words from the Master. He says, if anyone would come after me, means if you wish to follow divinity, what is the way? He gives the way. He says, let him deny himself, means leave your sense of doership. Then carry the cross daily. And what is cross? Swami would beautifully say, this feeling of I am doing, I. You know? Swami said, look at this I, everybody. Look at this I. This is I. Now what is this? Cut this I. What is this? Cross. You see? Carry your cross daily simply means, you cut this I, this sense of ego, the sense of doership is gone. When it's very simple, if you're simply aware of how you're functioning, how the world is functioning, there is no ego there to be expressed, right? So one way is through gratitude. You acknowledge God working through each of your brothers and sisters, through each of everything that is there in the nature. Acknowledge God functioning through every system in your body, and then you know that it is He and He alone who is functioning. That is really I cut. That is the cross. So Jesus says, carry your cross daily, and then alone you can follow. You see? What a beautiful. So, how can you practice this? Very simple. Every day, when you take food, because food is what is running this engine of body, that is the fuel, remind yourself, this is not just food. What is this? This is a yajna. Yajna means a sacred ritual, sacrifice. How many of you have seen a yajna? Please raise your hand. Yeah? You've seen a ritual? So in the Indian tradition, you have this like a pit which is made with 3.5 layers. And then, they have offerings that are made to that with the intention of welfare of humanity. So there are sacred chants and everything that happens. Why was it designed like that? Do you know? The Yajna Kunda, that is the place of the ritual, is actually having 3.5 steps. 3 steps above, half step into the earth. That's how it is to be constructed. You know why they made it like that? The great sages of India, they recognize that the human body is the highest example of divinity. The human body is the highest example of divinity. And therefore it is said even in Bible that God made man in his own image. Right? So, you see, the human body in the Indian culture, they say a normal human being is 3.5 arms length. Right? If you measure the arm's length and multiply it by 3.5, that should be the height of a human being. 3.5 haath ka sharir, they say in Hindi, which means 3.5 arms length. Right? That should be the height of a human being, normal, average human being. So, what the sages did is, they made the Yajna Kunda, that is the sacrificial pit, 3.5 steps to represent the human body actually. Right? And then they replicated the human body in another way. What is that way? If you've seen the yajna that happens in Prasanthi Nilayam, the priests actually churn 2 pieces of wood and generate fire. They don't take matchbox or a lighter and generate fire. It is naturally lit. Why is that kind of a compulsion? It almost seems non-commonsensical, right? Because you just have a matchstick and finish it. Why do you struggle so much with friction and all like an early man and do it? But there is reason for that. The reason for that is the sages replicated the human body in the sacrificial fire. What does that mean? The 3.5 was a replica of the human form. Then the fire that is generated in the human body is natural. Like now, you had your breakfast hopefully, but as the next session is approaching, I'm sure there is fire brewing in your belly. Right? That fire, you don't have to invite it or do something for it to come up. The fire of hunger is naturally in you, yes? Do you agree or not? So that fire of hunger is naturally lit, and therefore the rishis made this into a yajna. That is, you have to naturally light the fire. You can't use a matchstick or something else for that. So the yajna is fashioned around the human being, not the other way around. Today we have lost sight of that completely. Who made the body? The cosmic intelligence or God. Who made the Yajna Kunda? Man. Now, to whom do you give more preference? Those who are ritualistic give more preference to the sacrificial fire, the ritual, the Yajna Kunda, but you have forgotten the human being. You see? And therefore, Swami says that when you have food 3 times a day and you say Brahma Arpanam, you sanctify the food and purify it. Brahma Havir means this yajna. It's not an ordinary yajna, it's Brahma yajna. Means it is the yajna of the cosmic intelligence. Brahma Agnav, the fire is also naturally come because of the cosmic intelligence. Brahma Nahutam. Even whatever is put inside has come from the cosmic intelligence. That is the plants and the trees and everything is born out of the cosmic intelligence. Brahmaivatena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. What this sentence means is, those who perform this ritual this is not simply eating food. Those who perform this ritual, if you are doing this with the awareness that everything is just the cosmic intelligence or Brahman in play, then you verily will be in a state of samadhi. You don't have to sit and meditate to be in samadhi. It says, if you do this with awareness, you will be in a state of samadhi. Right? So, this is something that you can practice. We won't do it now, because anyway you will be doing it after some time. Right? So, when you recognize this, that the cosmic intelligence or God or Swami is the one who is functioning through you all the time, you attain a state of liberation which is called Sarupya Mukti. That is, you attain the nature of God Himself. That is because you are diluting yourself. Your idea of yourself is dissolving. So God is expressing more and more through each one of us. So this is the final box, treasure chest, is self-realization. Right? Now guess the Bhagavata. Sages of ancient lore entered the worldly shore to play with Nanda Kishore. Sages of ancient lore entered the worldly shore to play with Nanda Kishore. Yeah? Gopikas, you got the key right again. Wonderful. Can we have some claps, please? Wonderful. So this is a beautiful scene. It's a beautiful painting. And there's a beautiful scene that is depicted between Krishna's friend and cousin, who is Uddhava, and the Gopikas, who were cowherd girls, but of highest realization. They were sages who came in the form of cowherd girls just to play with Krishna, the avatar, right? Like how when Swami took the avatar, there were so many friends of his who came, who were simpletons. They were villagers, but they came to play with the avatar, you see, in his childhood. So, in this episode, what happens is Uddhava comes to give a lesson to the Gopikas because he thinks they are just cowherd girls, right? So, what would they know? So, I have to teach them about the yoga. In the afternoon session, you're going to go through many yogas there. So, all of that he wanted to teach them. So, when he went them with a letter from Krishna, and Swami describes this letter very beautifully because he himself wrote it then, right, as Krishna. So Swami says, in that letter I wrote, Nenu mee intane ventane jantane eppudu unnanu in Telugu, which means I am always with you, in you, around you, above you, before you. Just as he told us now, he told the Gopikas then, he is the same Krishna. Okay? So he told them then, don't feel that I have gone away from you because I cannot leave you and go. I am always with you, in you, around you, above you, before you. This is what he said, right? After reading out that part of the letter, Uddhava said, Krishna also has a sub-note, a subscript after this, where he says, Uddhava has come to teach you yoga. So the Gopikas enjoyed the first part. They said, what is the second part? So he says, I have come to teach yoga. He said, nah, we can't learn yoga from you. So he was like, no, please, I have come to genuinely teach you yoga. And that's when the Gopikas say, see, we have simpletons. All we had was one mind with us. All we had was one mind with us. That mind, Krishna stole away. Chitta chora yashoda ke bal, navanita chora gopal. That navanita in the bhajan means our mind, a pure heart, right? So he stole away our heart, our mind. We don't have a mind. Without a mind, how can we grasp knowledge? This is what they ask. Can you assimilate any information without your mind? Like right now, if you are assimilating this information, can you do it without the mind? No. So that's what they said, that we don't have a mind, it's gone away with Krishna. What does that mean? They always knew Krishna to be Krishna consciousness. Krishna, the cosmic intelligence, not just a physical form. And therefore they said that our mind has merged with that infinite. And therefore, we can't learn anything from outside. We are incapable of learning this. What a beautiful way. And it is said, Swami himself narrated this episode to a student, and Bhagavan said that when Krishna came back to Vrindavan to meet Radha, his childhood friend, when he came to meet her, she was sitting by the banks of Yamuna. And Krishna came behind her, slowly walked. You know, he lost all his prankish nature and everything because he was doing administration for many, many years. So he thought he'll revive all of that back. So he came slowly behind Radha. And this is being narrated by Swami, just note that. So he jumped in front of Radha and stood like this. You know, Radha saw him and continued to do what she was doing. So he didn't expect this. So he said, Radhe, this is me, Krishna, I have come for you. So then Radha says, oh, is it? She holds Krishna's hand. bends down a branch of the tree gently, shows the leaves and says, "See, Krishna, in every leaf of this tree, you are only there." Then she shows the grass on the ground and says, "Look at every blade of grass, Krishna. You are only there." She holds Krishna's hands and runs towards Yamuna. Radha runs towards Yamuna. She fills her palms with the waters of Yamuna and shows it to Krishna and says, "See, Krishna, in every drop of Yamuna, in the waters of Yamuna, you are only there. Where did you go, Krishna, that you are saying you have come back?" These were the words of the greatest of the Gopikas, who is Radharani herself. And that is the state of Sayujyam. That is when you recognize in your actual experience that the cosmic intelligence is all there is. Bhagavan is all there is. Swami is all there is. This is when the sugar candy, the devotee, dissolves in the divinity. The small I dissolves in the Sa, which is Bhagavan himself. And there concludes the journey of this I into Sa, which is divinity, to make it a journey with Sai, in Sai, to be Sai. Sai Ram.